heading into Corbett Canyon. Corbett Canyon is actually a narrow gauge railroad way. Rail bed? What do you call it? Rail bed? It's a rail bed. It was a rail bed. And you see that a lot of these turns on the road are not banked. They're still pretty flat. Now the Central Coast Railroad ran in conjunction with the standard gauge Southern Pacific Railroad. Now I'm sure you railroad guys will correct me if I'm wrong, but the narrow gauge locos had a better weight to power ratio than did the standard gauges. Now while the standard gauges could obviously pull a much heavier load, they couldn't do it as at a steep a grade as the narrow gauge did. So the narrow gauge was able to go to places up and down around hills that the standard gauge couldn't. And since narrow gauge didn't require as large or as long a turn or such a wide radius of a turn, they were much more suitable to go through canyons such as this. Now next to this rail bed was a wagon track, which will split off from in a bit here. I found a, woo! Someone squished a skunk. Nasty, nasty. I found a website that carries old maps of your area, and I wish I could remember it, but I'll put the link up so you can go check out your area. And my little bit of California, the maps go back to, I think 1895 is earlier, the 1895 or 1905. And you can find all the old railways and rail beds of the Central Coast Railroad. That's not COVID. Now I always knew that the area had a narrow gauge railway that ran in conjunction with the standard gauge, but I always thought it only went out to Avila Beach, out to Hartford Pier. Now here's a hard turn. You can see this radius. This is the rail bed. Now a standard gauge could not make this turn. It just, the locos and the cars are just too dang big. And as you can see from the bumps in the hills, a standard loco probably couldn't do this either. See the cut through the hillside here? This is the actual cut for the rail. That's so cool. Now right up here, I don't know exactly where, but I'm gonna guess it's after this bridge. It went off in that direction, went around this hill, because this has just got too steep. right here is where the rail rejoins. So we're back on the rail bed again. Right here it goes off in that direction and starts to parallel the standard gauge tracks of the Southern Pacific Railroad. And it'll pretty much parallel those tracks all the way into San Luis Obispo. Now in San Luis Obispo, they go through by the time they went through the southern edge of town and hooked up in their little tiny rail yard about a mile from the Southern Pacific rail yard. Had its own little turntable, had its own multiple little sidings. It pretty well took care of a lot of commerce and hauling. That was before it took over for the big horse-drawn wagons. They used to haul freight, but before the large trucks that could handle the freight. Well, that was kind of gross. I just had a little bug come under my helmet and go on my nose. Ah. Oh well. Pure protein, tastes like popcorn. Mm-mm.